Today on the platform, we are thrilled to welcome Madhura Dasgupta Sinha, founder and CEO of Aspire for Her. After a successful 25-year career in banking, Madhura took the bold step of launching Aspire for Her. She is a passionate advocate for women's economic empowerment, a recognized social entrepreneur, and someone who believes deeply in the power of community to drive change. So, Madhura, hi. Take us back to when you formed the idea of Aspire for Her.
Hi, Santosh. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a great pleasure and privilege. Well, Aspire for Her was started exactly almost 5 years ago on Women's Day 2020. And one day, three things happened. And that's what triggered me to almost start Aspire for Her. This was a normal day like any other, and my friend Priya called me and was very depressed. And I asked her why. And she said, my father has got diagnosed with cancer, and I feel terrible that I cannot contribute financially to his treatment. And I said, why? And she said, I don't have any money that I can call my own. Now, Priya was a topper. She's the mother of one of my daughter's friends, and she gave up her job when her first child was born. And I felt quite terrible because I never thought of Priya as being a depressed, helpless human being. The same day in the evening, there was a young woman called Ayushi, who's a friend of my daughter's, who was working with a very renowned firm, and she waltzed in and said that she has resigned. And I said, why? Have you got a new job? And she said, no, I'm getting into an arranged marriage, and the boy's family has said that they do not allow women to work. And I was shocked. It was like a slap on my face because I realized that 20 years down the line, Ayushi is going to become my friend Priya.
Yeah.
And she's going to feel so disappointed with her life choices. And I was thinking there should be a platform, there should be something that tells Ayushi, don't make this choice. Financial independence is very important to every woman in this country and the world.
Right.
And then I went to my mother. That was the third thing. And my mother is an IS officer. So I told her, this is where the country is going. We can become a huge economy if women actually get into the workforce. Look at the data, look at the statistics. There's a declining trajectory of women in the workforce. And the government should do something. The policymakers should do something. The corporates should do something.
Right.
And my mother asked me, what are you doing about it? And that's how Aspire for Her was born.
Wow. And you said it was born on the 8th of March.
8th of March, yeah. So we took a little while to put our things together, and it was born on the 8th of March, 2020.
Right.
So yes, we just completed 5 years.
Brilliant. You put a very audacious goal of 1 million women in workforce by in India. How is that looking, and why did you think of 1 million as the target for yourself?
Well, when I started Aspire for Her, it was just a dream. It was just a seed and a glint in our eyes, really. But I thought India is a large country. And if I truly want to make a difference in women's economic participation, and if you see the Global Gender Gap Index, India forever is at the bottom in terms of women's economic participation.
Right.
I see the best and the brightest women around me in India, and I feel that it's a waste. The education and all the wonderful work that the systems are doing around women are not translating into economic prosperity for my country. And as for McKinsey, this is $1 trillion opportunity for our country. So with all of these big numbers thrown in, I thought that we should have a big and audacious goal. And therefore, it was just a line in the sand at that point in time when we said 1 million by 2025. It is 2025 today, and we are at about 850,000, strongly marching towards the 1 million goal.
Wow, that's fabulous. All of us who start the journey of entrepreneurship or social or starting towards a certain mission, when we take that first step, there are things that happen which lead you to doubt yourself. Did you have any such moment?
Yeah, as you remember, 8th of March 2020, it was before the world completely changed for all of us, right? COVID hit us just a few days after that.
Yeah.
And I remember that I was actually going to the US to visit my daughter, who was a student there. And we landed, and the whole flight, it was a long flight. Thankfully, the Wi-Fi was working. So I was actually working on the logo of Aspire for Her. I was working on the website. I was approving the assets, etc. And we were just sort of, we were all ready to get launched. And we landed, and then in a few hours, we actually launched Aspire for Her.
Right.
And my daughter was there, and all three of us were sitting, and we were actually in the Harvard, arena. We were in near Harvard Business School, and on the famous stairs, we were taking the pictures, and that's when I was thinking 1 million by 2025. Sometimes the space really has a way of motivating and inspiring you, and that's what it did for me as well. And as after launching, I said, I really feel that there's a strong need for a platform like this. But we had a little Google form where we said, hey, if you're interested in women's financial independence, or if you're a woman looking for a great career opportunity, great career paths, then go sign up with us. And we had a small Google form which got put out. And the next day in the morning, I wake up and we had 10 people who had signed up.
Wow.
And I told my daughter that it's only 10 people who think this is important. And I think perhaps, maybe people will not find it interesting. Maybe people will not find it motivating enough for them to do something and do
Right.
something about their career. But today that 10 has become 850,000.
Oh, wow.
So we do think now that, it was an idea which is good, and it was an idea that was loved by people, by the community.
Yeah. Persistence helps. Of
course.
Yeah. So now that you've spent almost 5 years doing this, you have interacted with a lot of women from the lens of trying to fix this problem. What have you seen as a barrier that holds them back?
I'll talk about the barriers and how we have tried to solve each of those barriers. I think the biggest barrier, Santosh, that we have is the mindset of society in general about women. And this is a very strange trajectory that this has undertaken. This is my own personal feeling. As the per capita income in the country actually grew, there was an increased inclination towards asking women to move out of the workforce. Because probably the man of the family felt that he was earning enough. And this is a privilege that he is giving to the woman to say that she doesn't really need to work. So financial independence of women has always been looked at through that lens by society in general in India, which is the reason why only 18% of India's economy even today is contributed by women. And that's the economic participation of women. And imagine if this could be a little bigger, the overall country itself could be a lot more prosperous and could grow a lot faster. So given that, and if you see the mindset, there are actually 5 elements of the mindset that we feel need to be changed. First of all, I think women lack mentors and role models. They lack people who look like them, who are professionally successful. 4 out of 5 girls in India have no women in their immediate network who are professionally successful. So what we try to do is build a network of mentors. We have more than 400 women leaders who are mentors at Aspire for Her. CEOs, CXOs, founders, unicorn builders who do one-to-one and one-to-many mentorship with our community.
Wonderful.
That's the first pillar we feel requires fixing. The second pillar is all about learning opportunities, skilling, upskilling, reskilling. The world of work has changed. The future of work is going to look very different from what work looked like earlier. And therefore, for the India of tomorrow, we want to get women prepared and skilled. So we want to get them skilled, we want to get them upskilled, we want to get them reskilled.
Right.
So this is the second pillar. We call it courses, cohorts, and learning, and we help them get into better employment opportunities and entrepreneurial ambitions.
Right.
That's our second pillar. The third problem that we see is the lack of storytelling and the lack of people who look like you to know about them. So the mainstream media doesn't really care about who they're portraying, and often we see that there are exceptions, of course, but often we see that the typical stories which get churned out about startups, about successes, entrepreneurship are all usually about men. And usually it's the same small set of women who keep on getting talked about. So what we try to do is every day on our platform, we celebrate women and their careers. And because we feel very strongly, if she can see it, she can be it.
Wow.
So that's the third pillar of storytelling, and we call that career previews and resources.
Okay.
And the last pillar is the community. And that pillar is very important. It's at the front and center of what we do, because it's a very lonely journey for a woman. Whether she's in a career, which is a job, whether she's in an entrepreneurial journey, both are very, very lonely journeys. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, it can be a very, very lonely, isolating kind of a journey where you feel that you are fighting all the battles alone. So what we try to do is we try to give them a safe space and a community where they connect with each other, motivate each other, elevate each other, and also try to solve problems creatively and collectively. So these are the 4 pillars that we work on, and based on specific gaps that we saw in women's economic participation. And at the end of it, the 5th piece is really giving them opportunities. And we call it a 3E model. That model, the 3 E's stand for employment, entrepreneurship, and education. That's where we want every woman in India to be.
Right. Coming to community, you have over 8 lakh women with you. Tell us a bit more about the community and how do you manage it? How is it sliced? How does it operate?
Right.
Yeah.
So we have 25 communities that we have built across these 850,000 odd women and supporters as well. And we use a very unique mindset change model. I alluded to it in the last question. And this model has a name. So 3 E's is E cubed. And the mentors, courses, cohorts, and learning, the career previews and community is MCC and C.
Wow.
So it's MC cube.
So cool. Nice.
So it's stolen from a much more famous formula, which we have now nearly forgotten. so we call it E cubed is equal to MC cubed. And today, the 25 communities that we have built include students, entrepreneurs, women returning to the workforce, women aspiring to get into jobs, senior women leaders, emerging professionals, all of this. So when we started, we actually realized that 18 to 25 is a very critical age for our community.
Okay.
Because that's where the seeds of financial independence needs to be sown. And we thought, let's start with women in college.
Wonderful.
That's how we started. But we soon realized that it's not enough to just have that one community. We have to go up and we have to go down.
Right.
So today we have demographic communities like women in college, girls in school, women in emerging professionals, women leaders, women in mid-career, women returning to the workforce, and all of this.
Wow.
And
Okay.
on the other side, we have some domain-specific communities, which include women in technology, women in e-commerce, women on water, women in sales, women in AI, women in fintech, and so on and so forth.
Wonderful.
And against all of this is also Entreprenari. Entreprenari is a community for women entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. And again, within Entreprenari, it's not a homogeneous mix, obviously. We have women at the grassroots level who are dairy workers, agri workers, artisans, weavers, etc. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have very sophisticated women entrepreneurs who are today maybe chasing their Series B, their ex-IIT, ex-IIM, ex-McKinsey, and they're coming in and also working with us. So it's a very beautiful heterogeneous community of Entreprenari. And these women are job creators and not just job seekers. So that's what makes them very important to us. So these are some of the general communities that we have built, the 25 that we have built. But within that, I will talk to you about one special community that we built in May 2021 after the brutal second wave of COVID. And this was a community of women who had lost their primary breadwinners to COVID. All of us know that more men than women lost their lives to COVID. And this was a community called Not Alone, which we started for women who were emotionally devastated. And they were financially also very insecure because in our country, not too many women actually know about the family finances.
Yes.
They do not know what kind of savings the family has. They do not know the sources of income. They do not know whether there's a huge debt hanging on their head, whether the house belongs to them or not. It's quite tragic, but that's what it is. And I think it took COVID to wake us up, from that stupor. And we've done a lot of work around financial literacy. We have a concept which is called She Knows Money, where we try to get in women to understand their own money. And also be truly financially independent, because even many working women are also not financially independent, and they do not independently take decisions about their investments and savings. So this community of Not Alone was a very fulfilling journey for us. And not only this women, but many other women also learned about finances. We also ensured that we helped them figure out all the issues that they had using the same EQ is equal to MCQ model.
Yeah.
They had an anchor who would be with them 24/7. Many of them were on the verge of taking their own life because they were so depressed at that point in time. And in many cases, we helped them rehabilitate them back into society. We helped them transition out of that intense grief that they were feeling. We helped them with PF. We helped them with sorting out their insurance issues. We helped them with legal issues. Many in-laws were turning out those women out of their home, saying you don't have a right on the marital home anymore. And all of that we worked on. We worked with all the scholarship schemes that the government was giving, the system was giving, etc., and ensured that their children's educations were taken care of. And today, all of them are financially independent.
Wow. Hats off to you.
Yes, that's been a very, very beautiful journey, Santosh. Yes.
That's really heartwarming, and thank you for this. So when you speak about communities, how does peer learning happen in your community? That is one, and I'm very curious to learn more about Entreprenari.
Right. So Entreprenari, as I said, is a community for women entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. And we have a very inspiring young woman who actually has been working with us quietly behind the scenes on Entreprenari. Her name is Navya Naveli Nanda. Navya happens to be the granddaughter of Mr. Bachchan. And we have been working together for 4+ years to actually create Entreprenari. Entreprenari is... it's a very beautiful community for us, because we know that if you give one woman a job, it's just one woman getting a job and one family getting impacted. But in Entreprenari, if one woman becomes an entrepreneur, she hires 5 more women, she hires 10 more women. So therefore, the impact is much higher. Yeah. It's a snowball effect. And we love that. And we have a very strong community of women entrepreneurs, right from the grassroots level to very, very senior women leaders who are entrepreneurs, who are role models, who have been kind enough to also come and share their stories with us, mentor our community, and also help them build their own businesses. So that's what we do in Entreprenari. We have a concept called Shop Entreprenari. And Shop Entreprenari actually stands for the piece that we want everyone to help build the women's economy. And every person, whatever disposable income they have, if it's a festival coming up, or if it's a reason why you want to spend, we would love for all of you to look at a woman entrepreneur when you're buying anything. This is a gender lens that we want you to look at, and whether you're a man or a woman, we'd love for you to do this. Up ki bari, Shop Entreprenari. That's what we do. We have a digital platform where all of these women's products, services are all listed. It's called www.shopentreprenari.com.
And do these products have Entreprenari written on them for people to identify that this is women-led?
It's on our website,
in physical.
They don't. Most of them don't have Entreprenari written on them, but it's a good idea. I think we should try to do that.
It's like Make in India, right? So
absolutely, yeah, and we should. So we have applied for trademarking this term.
Wonderful.
Entreprenari. So very soon when we have it, then we'll be able to perhaps also tell all the women that you are an Entreprenari listed product, or you're proud to be an Entreprenari kind of thing.
Yes.
But our entrepreneurs are incredibly proud. We did a Mela some time back, just before Diwali last year. And we had more than 120 women entrepreneurs from all over the country who came to Bombay and who actually set up their stalls, they showcased their products, and it was a beautiful way to celebrate women's entrepreneurship. We had Mrs. Fadnavis who came in and inspired them. We also had Abu Jani and Sandeep Khosla who did a special fashion show for women entrepreneurs. So they were more than the celebrities, the center of the show was of Entreprenaris. And Navya, of course, led this. So it was a very beautiful occasion for all of us to celebrate the spirit of women's entrepreneurship in India.
More power to you on that.
Thank you.
No conversation is complete without discussing AI.
Yes.
So, how is AI transforming the way you look at Aspire for Her?
Well, I think the whole concept of jobs as we knew it, careers as we knew it, is getting reshaped by AI today. So we wanted to do this across our community, across our young student community to start with, because we wanted them to first dip their toes into AI. And then if they like it, then of course, get deeper, look at certifications, look at courses, and look at careers around those tracks. The great thing about AI is that it's a level playing field. There is no difference between men and women. It's equally new to both men and women.
Yeah.
So there is no legacy to catch up on.
Right.
And when Amazon Web Services are a very good partner, they came forward. We actually did something very interesting with them called She Knows AI.
No,
She Knows AI is a community that we launched across colleges in India. And we actually have the unique distinction of possibly what is the largest AI classroom in the world, where we had 18,653 students who actually joined together. And we had a wonderful trainer for Amazon who was actually telling them all about AI, the use cases and all of that. And they were learning about AI. And these students were all from very, very underserved colleges. And they were from the hinterland, absolute hinterland of Maharashtra and other states. So we had people from Kolhapur, Sholapur, Jalna, very, very, spaces which we normally would not go into. But all of those students were sitting in that virtual classroom and they were actually consuming AI. And now some of them have got excited about doing more with AI, and they're coming back to us to say, hey, we want more.
Wow. So you're doing fabulous work, and that has been validated by multiple awards that you have received. You've received UN awards. I've recently saw you on stage on the Fortune Most Powerful Woman. So you've got a multiple things. So what is it that something that is stuck with you, or some award that you felt is really, really worth it?
Well, we've been very lucky that people have liked the work that we do, and many of them have chosen to recognize our work. Of course, the UN Women, 3 years in a row, they gave us the award for gender responsive marketplaces. So Entrepreneury has been at the front and center of that. We have also been the finalists in the Social Entrepreneurship of the Year award, awarded by the Schwab Foundation and the Jubilant Bhartiya Foundation. The Schwab Foundation organizes the World Economic Forum in Davos every year, so that's how you would know of them. But one thing that really stands out is really the Stanford Seed cohort that I'm part of. I'm part of the class of 2025. Aspire for Her is part of that. It's a group of very, very inspiring founders from across the country, men and women. And it's a 9-month program. But the kind of learning that we have from the professors of Stanford coming down and spending time with us has been absolutely outstanding. They help us look at our business with a brand new lens, and they help us also build our business for the future and transform the path forward. And we're very happy with the way in which the whole community also works together. The Stanford community has become almost like classmates to me. So we can actually call them at any point in time. They've become great friends. And they support us in whatever that we do, whatever we're trying to do at Aspire for Her. Many of them have come forward to support us. It's a very supportive community. And the learning that we're getting out of this is something that stays for life. So awards are ephemeral, but the learning stays for life. So I would always prefer learning to any kind of award that we get.
Fabulous. Last question. How do you see the future of Aspire for Her?
Well, that's very simple. We started with a line in the sand, and it was 1 million by 2025. The next year that we have in mind, the milestone that we have in mind is 2030. It's 10 million by 2030.
Awesome. And good wishes for that.
Thank you so much, Santosh.
Okay, so we are going to do a quick section of rapid fire where we will get to know you. Are you ready for that?
Yep.
Okay, this is obviously going to be very close to your heart. First word that comes to your mind when you hear Aspire for Her.
Women.
Morning ritual you never skip.
I open my phone first and see what's been blowing up.
If you could time travel, would you go to the past or the future?
Of course, the future. 10 million by 2030.
Your comfort food.
Khichdi.
One thing you're surprisingly bad at.
Well, I would have loved to drive a car at some point in time. I've tried. I'm terrible. So I gave up.
That's perfectly okay in Mumbai. A hobby or interest you wish you had more time for.
Shopping. I love buying products by entrepreneurs. I love discovering new women entrepreneurs and the great work they're doing and buying their products to encourage them and to also encourage myself and build the women's economy. But I don't have enough time for shopping. I wish I had more time.
Awesome. Best piece of advice you have ever received in one sentence.
Be unapologetic.
That's great, Madhura. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing your journey. Wishing you all the very best at Aspire for Her and many, many millions and many, many communities and a lot of growth for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.